Yeah. You already know. It's Kappa Kappa. Young millionaires. The general. Okay, I wake up every day. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. Every day I'm getting paid. Man, this life is going great. I just wanna celebrate. I made it in and out of state. $1 million in the case. I got it hidden somewhere safe. I multiply all my millions and really I am extremely wealthy. I distributed my millions with my family. This is just the beginning. I purchased a Lamborghini, driving around the city. Believe me, you haven't seen me. Made it through all the struggle, defeated all of my rivals. I was never entitled, I had to fight for survival. Man, this life is amazing. It's crazy the way we made it. Now I'm living my dreams and I'm barely just getting started. Through the struggle back when I was very worried. Now I'm chilling, get my condo, Lamborghinis and Bugatti. I know you in a hurry, but I promise don't be worried. When you see me in the club, I probably got enough to party. I'm a multi-millionaire, getting money everywhere. I ain't tripping on nobody, I just came to celebrate. Yeah, we got the party popping, got the general over here, throwing money in the air, cause we get it every day. I multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. Multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling.
The Truth Podcast, live from the grill in San Mateo. We got Big John. We got Nikki G. We lost Carson on a curb. He got scared. Now he's out there. He's working. He's got to make some money. What's up, guys?
How's it going? How's it going?
We're still here.
We're here. We're alive.
Yep.
We're kicking. We're strong.
Definitely.
That's what counts.
Absolutely.
No one's falling out of the camp.
No. Just nice warm weather, and now we just got to get people's minds right, and people start, you guys, we talked a little bit before show, people, some people are gripping a little bit and thinking, negative thoughts or whatever, or being stressed out, especially now we're in day 2 of this 2-week lockdown. So, the mental part of it, mental wellness is very important, people to have somebody to talk about. I know you can feel isolated, so that's an important thing for hopefully people can, take some things from here.
I think I'm gonna read this proverb that I had, a little special over here that I had, and then we're gonna go into our topic. But I want you to kind of keep this proverb where it's at. And what it is a lazy man is afraid to go outside and be eaten by lions. Book of Proverbs, right? So let's think about that. We're in a lockdown, right? But does that mean that we lock our minds, we lock our abilities to learn, we lock our ability to do something positive? And I think one of the things is, we've touched on these podcasts, fear is a mother effer, man. Fear is one of those things that you just get a hold of your mind and just control you. And I think when you really think about that, you take fear and then you take laziness and you mix that son of a bitch. Now we got a huge disaster on our hands. And you think about this, the majority of humans are out there already fighting that lazy boneness of it. And then you can wrap up too many different excuses, right? and not focusing on the right things. And I think that's kind of what's with this pandemic going on. And you don't even know what to think anymore. You got so much information. You pop up your iPhone, you got more negativity, good news, bad news, fake news. We don't know. It's just been a shit show. So I think that ultimately, one of the things that we got to focus on is, let's talk about the topic. And the topic that we have is, John, what's that main topic we came up with? Because I wrote
Weeds
some
in the garden.
Weeds
in the garden.
Weeds in the garden, but I'm going to go a little deep in this, right? Weeds in your garden suffocate the good plants. Not knowing the difference early could prevent your growth. You need to remove the weeds before they take a strong root. So let's talk about that, right? I just gave you two big things to think about, right?
Absolutely.
The lazy man doesn't want to go outside because he's afraid of getting eaten by lions. Well, how many lions is there really out there? We just talk about what is around us. What are we going to let plant? And if you guys know, I'm sure a lot of people don't know this, but when you water off the river or you water off the big acequias into your like me, the park, right? There's a lot of seeds that are being carried. The majority of those seeds that are being carried are weeds, right? But when you're going out there in your life and you're hearing all this bullshit information, here's all these seeds coming into our mind, right? All these seeds from all over the place. This negativity about COVID, the presidential elections. You're just sitting here like, what's going on? But this is what's crazy. Let me explain something to you. But who is it only affecting? What did I talk about in a lot of previous podcasts is the poverty mindset. So this is something, I deal with a lot of brokers, and I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but I kind of want to get this thing set up for you. Right now is the hottest market for supercars. If you check at most of the Lamborghini dealerships, they don't have any Lamborghinis to sell you because they're flying off their shelves. So what does that tell you? The people at the top are making moves. And if the people at the top are making moves, it's because they're not waiting. But what do? They de-weeded all their garden, and they know exactly what they're focused on to grow. What's also flying off the shelves? The high-end guns. If you look, I like to look at everything. You look at the markets. Whoever had a lot of high-end guns, they're going out there. People are bidding them for like crazy. So the money's out there, right? But it's that fear. I'm not going to go out and do anything because I'm afraid about getting eaten by a lion. Right now, the lion we face is COVID. The lion we face is laziness, right? Those are the two lions that we're really facing. But what the sad part is, with all these different seeds coming into our mind, we're allowing them to grow. And if you start to grow bad habits before good habits, and you don't identify them in time, those bad habits are literally going to take over what's doing good in your life, right? You guys, when I tell you this, does anything resonate in your guys' lives that trickles when I'm thinking of a habit?
Absolutely. One of the things I've always said is, even, when you see, I love the garden thing because it's something I've already used. Because if you look at, we're in New Mexico and you look at the goat heads, when you see them starting, they look like ground covers. They're very pretty. If you really get really close, the flowers are gorgeous, but when you look a little bit down the flower, there's those stickers that are like most horrible. And you can't get rid of them. You got to burn them, So I always picture my life as everybody in my life as a plant. Either they're bringing towards my garden or they're taking away. And if you look at an elm tree, they'll literally suck the life out of your garden, even from outside the fence. Because their roots are so deep and so rooted. So I never put in a perspective when you talked about when you're running off the water, because it's pulling up in all that trash, all the stuff that's coming in, and those seeds just go. When the wind blows for fall or whenever it comes in, those seeds are everywhere. And if you don't get rid of them, which I learned this year in my garden, they'll start taking over. I thought I had like this whole bean sprouts going and they were nothing but elm trees because the wind blew them in. And so I think, what resonates with me the most when I think about a bad seed is not only a bad seed could be a person, because I've had many seeds where you think they're really good for you, or, all these concepts, but really it turned out to be not so great. But also a bad seed could be, like you said, a thought pattern or a pattern of way you're, either living, thinking, being. And when I started reflecting on myself, I started thinking about, okay, like right now, current day, like what are my what are my bad weeds that I get rid of, And I feel like when we approach it as in how is this benefiting us and what is it really teaching us, it kind of changes the games for everything, because then I want the most powerful thing. And even when the plant grows, like, do we even know how to, properly prune the tree? When I think about my dad, he's an excellent gardener. Like, he's just insane, but he knows how to properly prune and trim. And that's why his garden flourishes. So even if I have a good plant, if I don't even not only clean the area, but if I don't properly take care of the soil and everything, it's like pointless, So like, how many things are we doing pointless in our life?
But I think, Nikki, like when you get to that point, that's kind of like this. I'm going to take it down to finances, right? So
Okay.
what you just explained there is after getting the check and you have some excess cash, and you never want to approach it with that too big of a. So you've used the word thought pattern, and so let's break this down, right? I've always told you in mathematics, there's only 4 things you can do: add, subtract, multiply, and divide. That's it. Can't do anything else. It's knowing the order of operation. So let's go into these seeds and these thoughts. So, we hear a lot I hear you when you say, like, a lot of these guys that talk out there and talk about thought patterns and creating a bunch. So let me tell you what I think about thought patterns, and I'm gonna give you the gospel according to the general. So I think that if you start off with one bad fucking thought and you get one bad result from it, if you put it into action, then you say, well, that one thought I had actually propelled me to start these other bad behaviors, which I don't believe in. This is what I want to think. What you're taught as an extreme fighter or a special operative soldier, the first thing they teach you is about controlling your core emotions, right? Something happens to you, you feel that effect, right? Someone punches you, you're able to hold yourself for that split second, take it into your mind, identify what emotion it was, put it in your mind, and then at that moment make a decision on what you're going to do, not a non-reaction. So to kind of go back to this, right? So let's talk about money. So we're sitting at home and we're broke as shit. And the thought is you know what? I'm worth this much money. So you know what? I'm not going to go even do that job, or I'm not going to do this because I'm going to wait for the right thing because I think I'm a badass. And then you start to become fucking broke. And so you're not planting anything. So when that opportunity comes in, you're not even going to be ready for it because you're thinking you're something and you're not. And I call that a legend in your own mind. And so if you're sitting at home and don't got that job and it's past 3 weeks, you're not that fucking badass because LeBron James is not looking for a job. That's what we talked on the past podcast. Good versus great. Mm-hmm. Big difference, right? Semi-good to great to good. Big difference. Large fucking delta to greatness, right? So when you take these, we go into these thoughts, right? We put these seeds in our mind. So let's go back to the financial one, for example. So I use myself as an example. And we were talking about the Frito pie. I can remember very vividly in my life when I was starting off 16, 17 years old, and I didn't have a lot of money, but I was just fucking ready, right? If you wanted to hire me at the freaking fast food restaurant, if I could chop wood, what value do I bring? It was always different seeds. So when I went to, I gotta take a moment. I heard that one of my original bosses passed away. Sad time. Founder of Montes Chalcar. Our blessings to you. Our prayers. Founder of Montes, Mr. Monte. He passed away. He was one of my first jobs, right, at Montes Chalcar in Taos. What I realized about that from that job, what did I learn? Well, I knew that I wasn't going to be in fast food forever, but what did I take from that? I know how to chop the best tomatoes. I know how to chop onions like a restaurant style. I know how to chop the lettuce. I know how to actually put meals together so that they stay hot, right? Like you're going to cook breakfast, you never cook the eggs first. You always start with the potatoes, get to the bacon, then you do the eggs last. So when you put it all together, the meal comes out just perfect, right? Learn how to roll burritos. Holy shit. So it's crazy as that because everyone's like, I think the General's famous burritos. So I can deliver that burrito at that restaurant style because I took the time to learn. And so that seed that he was planting in me, I said, I want to take it because it's going to be worth to me something in the future, right?
Absolutely.
So you take that job, right? You make that job. I'm making $6, $7 an hour. But what that job was fortitude in me was that with that extra money that I was saving, I was able to do certain things in my car. But if you jump forward, as you guys are going to laugh at this, that money I saved was able to buy me this really sharp axe, a sledgehammer, I forgot what I call right now, but it's basically a piece of metal you put in the wood and you slap it together. A wedge. Thank you, John. Freaking me out. A wedge, a shovel, and a pick. And they're like, where do we buy stuff? Because I knew that one of the things that was happening in Penasco, people would pay to build fences and people to chop wood. But if I had a better tool, I was going to have a better ability to get there. Then I realized the third thing around me is that people need to sweep snow. So if I got a good snow shovel and a good brush, I was going to be ahead of the game. So what I'm talking about is you're looking around, but I didn't let the hogwash around me of the drugs, bad seeds, people not doing shit, people saying, how am I going to defraud the government so I can get on Social Security? Those are all bad seeds. I wasn't focused on any of that. My little garden may not have a lot of plants, but that one plant I knew was strong. The root was strong, and it was that hard work ethic. And I just knew that my hard work ethic was going to get me there, and that was it, and I didn't know how. But what I learned from those pieces was that if I just did those basic things and didn't let the shit around me affect me, guess what? I was never broke that from that time on. I've had financial freedom since the day I made $12.50 an hour. And people say, how'd you figure it out? Because I wasn't allowing all these bad seeds. I didn't give a damn what was going on, who had what, if you had the baddest and greatest. No, I always played within my means, right? And in today, if you don't even have those fundamentals and you're in today's world and you have all this shit inundated by you by social media, this, that's the other, right in front of you with Facebook, right? With all this crap, the president, you're like, is it real? Is it not? You know, and John was going to step in a little bit of this when talk about this. You know, people even like our former president making a statement like our system's all fucked up. Is it really? No, I don't know, but I got to say, you know what, this is where I'm at. I don't think so. But those are the things that I'm talking about. Are we going to allow, then all of a sudden you're thinking that our own government locally is not worth a shit. What are you going to do? Are you going to be a nomad? Are you going to freaking just try to go to the woods? No, you're not going to be able. And that's what I'm talking about, is that you're letting all this weeds start to grow in your mind. And if they get stronger than what you've already created with the small habits you have and they overtake you, you're fucking screwed.
It's dangerous. Dangerous,
right? You look at my field, right? My field, when they came out, I had an expert come out and I said, what are we going to grow? And I think it's 50% fescue and 50% something else. So it looks like a carpet, but it can withstand heat and it doesn't need a lot of water. And it can be cut lower than most lawns, right? What I realized in that moment, we have to be like that grass. We don't have to have a lot of things going for us, but we have to be good at one or two things. And no matter how many go-ahead bullshit goes, because the roots of the grass are so strong, nothing can grow inside my park. Yeah. And you know what I'm trying to tell you?
Oh, no, the garden is a metaphor for what do you want planted there? You know, if it's just fear and disinformation, well, then there's plenty of seeds that can come in and take over that garden. Or which do you value more? Is it your effort that you put into your family, the effort that you put into your job or your career, the effort that you put into relationships? I mean, am I getting this right? That's
absolutely
what the show is all about, is that we're talking about a garden and what do we let take over? The things that produce and maybe make you money or build a stronger relationship or a stronger bond in your family? Or is it just fear and disinformation and anxiety?
I want to point out something because I think this is just something that came to my mind. Look how powerful it was that you took something so young, okay? You took these fundamentals, but look how far they propelled you. And look how deep those roots got. And look how far that you still use the basic, you know, just the way you're built this day. And so think about people that are taking those bad seeds since that young age and they're propelling them forward and they're still using that same thing to this day. And it's like so monumental. So even though some people don't realize that till now, we can completely change.
But I want you to break it a little further than that, okay? I'm going to tell you this, look. Weeds don't grow deep roots. Weeds die every single year and they need a new seed to come in its place. When you grow a good crop, like a tree, the tree continues, whether it loses its leaves, its root is still in the soil. So what I'm saying is those fucking bullshit those people had were not plants. They were weeds. And what John just said is now they actually don't even have ground. So they didn't actually have a good plant that died and even fertilized the ground and gave it nutrients, like corn, for example. They had just a weed, and a weed doesn't bring any nutrients. I don't know if you've ever seen, I'm kind of a fucking nerd, right? If you go and look at weeds and what happens to them, they become so dry at right about this time. When you hit them, they just kind of disseminate. Have you guys ever have you noticed that? If you go to a crop plant that actually grew was worth of shit, it's dry, but it's still strong. Even when you break it, it doesn't just blow up. That's why you have to till it into the soil. And this is exactly what we're talking about, is that those individuals didn't have any plants. The soil's never been fertilized, and they're really starting from backwards because that shit just gets weeds every single year. And it's a new fundamental, whatever the new book came out, or I think try this or try that. And it's just fucking bullshit because all you're doing is filling yourself with all kinds of information. This is why I do not recommend listening to too many people, because all you're doing is taking all these different fundamentals that maybe have got them there, or they may be a little skewed, and it's really not getting you there. There's a very difference between empirical data and a bunch of people fucking talking and taking their opinions, right?
Absolutely.
Martial arts, right? The martial arts is two basic things, right? Is kicking, punching, taking the opponent's energy against them or moving it away from you. It doesn't matter which one it is. It's still the fundamental basis. That's what I'm trying to talk about, is that there is no fundamental. And so you start to realize, and this is what drives me fucking nuts. When you look online and you see all these guys selling these ads and I can do this and I'm an influencer and all that, and they're fucking taking pictures at dudes' houses like mine, and they're not their cars against them or moving it away from you. And it's all bullshit, right? And that's what I'm talking about.
It's a facade.
It's a fucking facade.
It's if we're sticking with the garden metaphor, they're literally putting an artificial plant out there, and it may look pretty right when it came out of the store, but eventually you can tell it's fake.
Exactly. Yeah. How beautiful is that? John hit that on the net. How many artificial plants out there do you guys have, listeners, that have put an artificial plant and there's no root? That is the fucking scary part.
Yeah.
Is the person coming into your life an artificial plant? Because sometimes, an artificial plant's a lot easier to come than a fucking weed. Like, I'm not looking at the pretty flowers, Nikki, to see the fucking go ahead. I know it's a go ahead, so I'm gonna hit you with the torch, right? You see what I'm trying to tell you? So I think that is really something good to focus on, is what artificial plants are being into our lives and those thought processes. So let's look at this. The lazy man or lazy woman, that's where we go, is gonna use the excuse of what's going on in their lives to never do shit. It protects their psyche. Like, the whole thing, I'm afraid of getting eaten by lions outside. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And so there's all this stuff going on. We're right here today. We're fucking on this podcast. There's no fear. You have to act smart. Mm-hmm. So the smart man, if your land is infested with lions, are you just gonna go outside by yourself? Or are you gonna have a gun or a spear or a shield, or are you gonna have dogs? Well, if I was infested by a land of dogs, well, I'm going to have those dogs, the one that you had, Michael, the Borbells, right? Or whatever. What is that dog?
South African Borbell.
South African Borbell. I'm going to have 3 of those fuckers, and then I'm going to have a gun, right? A 300 Weatherby mag. It's going to knock the shit out. So now the dogs are going to alert. So what would you fear? That's called preparation. But if you're planting the right plants and the right crops, those crops that are going to come off those plants is what gives you that preparation. If all you could do was plant wheat, right? Mm-hmm. And you grew wheat and you milled wheat and you made bread and you were to get some bread and butter, you're going to live for a long time. I'm not going to say it's the healthiest, but you're going to live for a long time.
But to stick with that sort of metaphor, and you can't just plant one thing.
No.
Because eventually you rob the soil of all its nutrients, and it will no longer grow anymore. The Romans did this to the North Africans in history. They went down there, conquered those areas around the Mediterranean, and they told them, you plant wheat, you plant rye, you plant whatever different crop. And then, because they want them to be cash crops, because they can produce just one thing, and it destroys their civilizations and it destroys the soil. So just like in life, if you just focus just on one thing, eventually you're going to rob the soil of its nutrients.
So, John, I want to touch something. I want to see this as a test for you. I'm going to play teacher on John. Okay. Let's think about this, okay? What you just said. So what you just said right there, how would you describe it in modern day when we're doing things that we've inherited from the past that maybe don't make any fucking sense, but we're still doing it? How would you paraphrase that?
Compared to what we did before.
So this is an example I want to use, right? I'm going to get down to, and we're talking about this because it makes this to me, is like, obviously in the South, there was slavery.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't continue slavery because we know that's fucking wrong. But there's people that still have the kind mindset, and they try to say, you know what, it's heritage, and that's not fucking true. And so we're stuck on these bullshit deals, right? Because we know that ultimately, that when we're trying to say, oh, you know what, the Confederate flag, you know, stands for this, and it's not that. And so what I'm talking about is you're carrying that one fucking plant that really didn't give, maybe at that one moment gave you wheat, but in this time today is not flourishing anymore because you sucked up the soil. And this is what I'm trying to talk about. We're breaking trauma bonds. We got a bond that we was either brought systemically because of our culture or the people that are in us, right? A bunch of broke fuckers just produce broke fuckers because we have to break the what do I call it?
Well, you break the cycle.
There you go. And so that's exactly what I'm trying to talk about, right? Is that we have to plant different plants that they might have worked in 1960, but they do not work in today, in 2020. And this is why that's what evolution's about. And this is why we got to constantly evolve our thought process and know, and I love what John said, have we tested our soil? Mm-hmm. What is really growing today in our minds? It's like saying that I'm going to continue trying to still lift weights at the same level of when I was 20 years old. I can still get away with it because I'm still in that age group. But when I hit 50,
your joints won't last.
Joints not going to last, right? Yeah. So I got to get these different fundamentals, and that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And so if you catch that early and you're saying, you know what, it's time to evolve, it's time to do this. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, you can make money. If you're making a few cents and you're doing a few things, the market is hot. Regardless of what anyone says, if you learned a few things monthly and you study and instead of worrying about what rich people are doing and all that, and you start to see what's really out there today, I'm going to give you guys a tip. I want you to look out, and I'm going to tell you to look out for the 2 freaking pharmaceutical companies that are leading with the vaccine, right? If you see the 2 ones, I can't remember what the names are right now, but Pfizer's in number 2, and the other one I think is like Moderna or something like that. If you look at that, jump out, take a foot, and buy a couple of bucks. You can afford the $35 because the $45 or $35 or $95, when this shit hits, is going to jump you to 120, maybe 90, more 100% of your money. Those are the things that I'm talking about. So
Pfizer and Moderna.
See that? Mm-hmm. And so there's so many things out there that you can possibly do. It's free to open up a Charles Schwab account, an E-Trade account. I prefer Charles Schwab. I really like the analytics, right? But that's what I'm talking about. It's right there for you to see what's going on. And so like today, people that bought Tesla made a 10% return. You could have closed, sold, you made a 10% return. This is where I'm talking shit's bullshit, but you're out there listening to fucking, I don't know how many other bullshit guys talking, or not even, it don't have to be bullshit, but you're not doing anything with it. All you're doing is pouring a bunch of nutrients into the ground, but you're not planting anything, right? Nothing got planted.
Yeah.
So
putting fertilizer and not watering.
Yeah, fertilizing and you're not doing nothing. So
water it too,
how scary is that?
You know? So you do certain things and you don't follow through on things.
Balance.
Yes.
Right? You're either, you could be fertilizing all day long, and this is what fucking people are doing out there when they read all day long and they're reading, but they're not doing anything, they're not putting anything into action. It's a waste of fucking time. Yeah. And that's why when people are like, okay, you see these quotes, Warren Buffett can read 6 books because he's a fucking billionaire. You cannot reading 6 books a day or the week if you're not doing your shit. You got to get out there and you got to be putting solid 10 hours worth of work and doing it effectively and smart. So at the end of the day, like, we got to get off our asses and start thinking all this shit that we're reading and seeing on social media is the dumbest shit ever in life, because I'm telling you right now, some of those fundamentals don't work for you. I can do a lot of those fundamentals. The average person can't. You're going to get broke, right?
Absolutely.
So those are those things I'm saying, a plan of action. A lot of people, that's how they don't know how to strike on opportunity. Opportunity is upon them, and they'll go and take the artificial plant, right? So they look at the artificial plan and say, well, shit, if I take this job, and I don't know how many times I've seen this even with my competitors, and I swoop and whoop their ass. I'm gonna give you an example. One of my biggest deals in my life was for a school district, and they only had $5,600. And the lady asked me to build a server. And I went to the original company I was working for, and they said, we can't do it for $5,600. No competitor wanted to go out there, but the ground is fertile. So the superintendent out there was probably one of the most smartest superintendents in the United States. The guy was actually working on an FCC funding that no one had ever done. So let me tell you how crazy this is, okay? So I look at it, I go, you know what? I'm going to do the right thing. One, I like the individual. I said, you know what? I'm going to help them get the server up to play. I got the server, so the company says, okay, it's going to be done on sales. You collect a check. It better cover your salary. We do that, but at the end of the day, it's the dumbest thing you're going to do. I go out. They get a PO for $3,600. I get it done. I help them load the software, get everything rolling, get everything running cherry. And this is exactly what they told me. One day we're going to come to a big crop and you're going to get your fair share because I fertilized the ground, right? And I did the right thing. I'm going to tell you something. 10 years later, I did over $8 million worth of business.
Wow.
But at the same time, I had an opportunity to make $50,000. But I knew that $50,000 was a one-time hit. So if I had to focus on the $50,000 and not the $5,000, the course, I got to both deals. The $50,000 deal, today, I've done $71,000 worth of business.
Wow.
Artificial plants, John, you could have not fucking said it best.
That is honestly a really good way to see things.
So when you think about that, that's everybody, the get rich quick. Oh, I can do this. I can make that. But they didn't realize that they're leaving an entire crop behind because they're so fucking lazy that they'd rather make three. And this is I get time from a lot of my friends. I had this nursing friend and she's like, well, if I do this, I can make $200 or $300. I can't remember. And I was like, well, take this opportunity and do this. And she's like, oh no. And then I laughed because I saw this other individual take her job. And I said, how much have you made? She's like, I got on salary and I'm making 80,000. And now they asked me, and she's really good at IT, right? That's how I met her. And now she's making an additional 20,000 to run the systems part-time, 105,000. This one that took the quick buck is fucking from job to job, going from here to here, and fucking probably making $35,000 a year. And the consistency, this one, a house. And those are the examples that I try to give, is that ultimately people, I'm not a dream catcher, right? I stick to technology. I don't know how many people want to pull me into all kinds of shit. And I've had some dry spells. I'm going to tell you right now, it's been a fucking pain in the ass. But guess what? I stick to what I know. I'm in there grinding. I mean, you see now, Nikki, you got office space with me. I mean, you see me in that place. You don't see me pull out. You see that big black Hummer, light early.
The first one there, the last one.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
And I'm grinding what I know. I'm sticking to what I know. But what I know is this. I am planting in my garden. I'm de-weeding bad habits because they're still very small. I'm pulling out those bad habits and I'm watering the tree that I had. I'm pruning it, what you're talking about. But you cannot prune something if it hasn't been grown and established and shown you that it's sustainable. Mm-hmm. People want to go from planting to growing to pruning. It's not going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
Growing is a 10-year process. That's why they say in business, the majority of all businesses within 5 years are closed. And if you get to the 5-year mark, it's huge. You get to that 5-year mark. I remember my 5-year mug, banks, everyone's like, whoa, you made it. You're sustainable. You're still not past the threshold. 10 years. 10 years is huge. Businesses after 10 years, they really shutting their doors down. It's a strong number. It goes from, I think, before the 5 years, I want to say that it's like 85% of businesses close. John's going to look that up. I think after 10 years, I think it's more like 70% or 60% success rate. Huge difference, right? Than 15 years, than 20 years. And that's why that 20-year mark is there. And the only time you see 20-year businesses go is because it was never actually meant for the original owner to have someone to succeed to it. And so that doesn't really matter. That's just saying, okay, I did it, right? They sell off Gallus and Davis Chevrolet or Cadillac, things like that, but they killed it, right? And so we cannot sit here and allow all this crap to flood the garden because you didn't even plant 1 or 2 crops.
Yep.
You're not doing 1 or 2 things good, not even one.
Yeah.
And this is what I say in your garden, and I focus on is plant these 3 crops, but I can't tell you what they are. I can only tell you the family. So when I talk about a family, there's fruits, there's vegetables, right? In the fruit and vegetable, there's a shitload of subset of different plants. I talk about mind, body, spirit. Create a plant that's going to be strong for your mind, that's going to pass that dividends, right? Plant that plant for your body that's going to pay that dividends, right? Plant that plant that's going to pay that dividends for your spirit. Now you have 3 solid plants that are going to become huge trees that, guess what? The leaves are going to stop the fucking bullshit flying in the air. They're going to consume the right things so that certain plants are going to protect for certain crops. And that's what I'm talking about. And so you have to start with those fundamentals, and you cannot jump forward. There is no leaping forward. And this is why when we're born, we crawl, we walk slow, we then learn to do that for a while, then we learn how to kind of semi-run, and then we sprint. But look at that time period of what it takes from crawling to sprinting. And then there's a whole new level when you become an Olympian, right? Mm-hmm. And greatness, there's a huge difference spread. A lot of us can run, but there's not very far from us from the greatness, even the goodness. That's exactly what I'm talking about now today. But if you're sitting today and you're just allowing all the shit in your life that's coming into as weeds, and you let those things take a little bit of a root and you don't pull that shit out. And it could be a small problem, like say, systematically, okay, I'm dealing with a fucking bad spouse and I'm in a divorce situation. And you're like, what am I going to do? Okay, well, if I want to win this case and I got kids involved, well, I'm going to have to make money in order to pay the lawyer because I can't do what the lawyer does. And if I sit here and not do that, so all you got to focus is make money and make sure that the lawyer you have is not fucking taking you to the paint. Can't do anything else. You can't dictate. You can't. I don't give a shit how much you read, what you see. Can't do it. You got to focus on that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And so, like, when I go to myself and I look back in those days, and I go from the fundamental of when I was always worried about money, and I'm like, well, I got a budget for this, to where I'm at today, there's a huge delta.
Yeah. Huge
delta, right? But I still have that same deep root of what I learned in the financial freedom portion of it, of how I actually work my money so it doesn't take me, so I don't get screwed up, right? John, that's funny. I'm going to use you here. I actually was fantasizing about a week ago, and I like to do this with all my friends, and said, if I was John, what would I do? And so I started to study teachers. You guys are going to laugh your ass off. And so I learned how long you actually have to teach, and then how much days off you get, and what you do, and then, based on grading papers and how the whole scale goes through. And I thought to myself, what would Jack do? And I said, this is what I would do. Well, obviously, I'd be a math or a science teacher. I would be doing research. And then I told myself, you know what I would do in the summer? Because I saw this, you can actually take on these projects at Sandia National Labs that pay a shitload, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, fuck. I would do what I love. Then I'm doing the Sandia National Labs deal, or I'm doing something within that time period. And now I'm creating 2 streams of income. But I can invest this or do this, get a couple rentals, whatever small portion, depending on your lifestyle, I would do. And this is exactly what I was thinking, because I was like, well, man, if I'm a freaking John, right, and he's so good at a teacher and he loves it, well, I won't want to leave my passion, but what would I do to be able to do things? And so that's what I was kind of thinking about, right? And so that's what I'm talking about, stepping outside what your boundaries are and what you make your own mental boundaries. Our worst enemy are our fucking own thoughts.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That is the worst enemy ever. So what's so fucking funny? We're so worried about the weeds that are coming from the outside from the river, and we're the ones fucking planting them. That's the sad part. We're the ones putting the weeds in our own garden and planting them, and then thinking that someone's planting, and the majority of the shit that's fucking us up are the own weeds that we planted for ourselves.
Yeah, we're watering those weeds.
And you know what? They get so much root that nothing else grows, and then we're just focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
And what example comes to your guys' mind? I want you to just give me 2 big examples of what you see. Even it could be personally or what you see. What do you think I'm talking about? Because I got some right on my head, but I want you to see what you guys. What are you seeing as like an own internal bad weed that you've battled or seen people battle?
You know, I'm gonna use my mom as the example. I'm sorry, Mom, but I noticed in the past week, my mom was like really fierce with the news and really fierce with like all this stuff, and I could just see her spinning. Right, I could see her getting stressed, and like it was just like eating her soul. And I was like, Mom, do a cleanse from TV, do a cleanse from media. Like I showed her like an app that had stuff that made her laugh, and I'm not kidding you. Within 2 days, she was like a whole other human being. Because she was no longer drowning in all this information, whether it's correct or whether it's wrong, whether it's bad. It doesn't fucking feel good. It doesn't, no matter what it is. I mean, and I tell her all the time, if it isn't in a 2 inch of your body, it really can affect you. So I told her, I'm going to live my life to the fucking fullest, to my best, to be my highest human potential. I said, and I'm not going to let that drown me, because at the end of the day, I don't have control of that stuff. But just in that moment of time, I saw her whole soul change just from controlling what she fed her mind. And that's so powerful. So to me, just in general, it's like, we don't even notice what's going on. I sat in the living room, and man, the commercials, I was like, what the hell is this going on? And I'm just like, and then they'll replay the commercial over and over and over again. And it was so much subliminal messaging that like I started not to feel good. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to remove myself, because I am in control of what I feed my mind, right? And like there's even times even when we get so in depth in music or, you know, whatever the thing might be. But sometimes I remember when I was in this all girls band and we were doing, you know, cover songs, and it was for charity. Well, we got the lyrics to a song that I grew up knowing my whole life. And when she started reading the lyrics out, I'm like, what the hell did I think it said this whole time? Because it was not what I thought it said. And we were so quick to just take in stuff without really listening. It's just like almost like even with you, like you're so chess player. It's like you remind me of that Queen Gambit movie. You know, you do 10 scenarios before you even make the decision. Like, you know, 10 different outcomes before you choose to make that move. And a lot of people are just so quick to just look at the checkerboard and just jump.
I want to use an example real quick, because you didn't get on my seed thing. And this is what I'm trying to get you focused. So think about this, right? Let's say this. There's a bunch of lyrics in the song.
Okay.
And I'm listening to the music. Do you think the lyrics can actually affect me? Me personally. No, be honest.
But you're different.
No. I'm just going based on me, because I'm going to go back to what I'm saying.
Well,
and I'll tell you why.
Well, I think that you don't put energy to anything that doesn't fucking matter. So it doesn't.
Exactly. This is what I'm talking about. Because my core that I grew. So let's think about this, right? Mm-hmm. So you got my mind, right? My mind was like, I want to learn mathematics. I want to learn science. I like that's why I like hanging with guys like John, when I was like, those are like facts, and he points me his things. Even his teaching style, I'd have been in his high school class, I'd have been tearing it up, man. And so what I think about those things is that my core mind thought process is that tree is so strong that when I call those sprinkles, right? Pollution, a little rain, this shit, it doesn't matter to me. I wouldn't even sit there and discuss that much in depth of the fucking song like give less a shit. Mm-hmm. Because I'm so focused on what I'm doing, right? I'm just the oak tree, so to say.
You're well rooted.
Just don't even matter about that. And so what I want to touch about this is when I was asking the question, this is kind of more of the example I'm looking for.
Okay.
So a bad weed for me, and I always break things in mind, body, spirit. So let's think about this, all right? I know a lot of individuals that get themselves racked off in a lot of pornography. And I'm not going to say none of us have fucking looked at porn because we'd be lying, right? Mm-hmm. But they get so stuck in pornography that all of a sudden they put that in and they actually believe that what's happening in pornography is a fucking reality. And they actually can't even get off or do the right things because they've actually planted a seed that's not really root, but they're fertilizing the shit out of it. And then, you know, their minds are fucking perverted and all they do is live for that. And it becomes pretty fucked up. And I've seen families crash. And I have a couple of friends that I've seen stuff, not in my close circle, but I'm more of an acquaintance. And I'm like this, there's no judgment, but I see that whole thing. You know, you're fucking
it reprograms your mind.
Reprograms your mind. Reprograms your mind.
It does. It reprograms your mind so that your the parts of your brain that feel things or senses things or things that are now important, you build up this sort of false reality of what life is, and it's not that way, but you can do that with any type of things that you stimulate your mind with. You can do it for positives or you can do it for negatives.
True.
So
So I mean, this is what I want to get through this, right? And this is what listening to people, because I've had family members that have been addicted to drugs, and when I would sit with the counselors, when they would explain it to me, like I go very scientific, right? And they were like, their dopamine levels of what they feel like. Let's say with us, we hit a 150. Let's use that mark at our highest, right? We have sex. We got that A in that test. John's son's throwing those heavy fucking throws, and he's like, holy shit. And he's you hit the 150. But imagine when you do drugs, you hit a 500. And you hit that 500 and that reprogramming. And so now when you hit the 150s, it doesn't matter to you because you can't even, you're like, it doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm talking about. So I was reading these articles that are real facts. So you look at the founders of social media and the guys that actually know about it. Do you think there's guys that they've asked and says, do you let your kids on social media? These are the fucking CEOs and creators. What do you think they say?
They're going to say no.
And they know why, right? Because
Exactly.
They say it's a marketing machine. You're doing this. So if I'm in there and I'm social media, I call it porn for the mind, right? Porn for success. And you're sitting in there and it's like, well, this guy did this, and he's on YouTube, and you've heard Carson say this, and there's guys doing this. And I'm like, well, show me one in fucking Albuquerque, New Mexico. And they can't show me one. Then that doesn't fucking matter. If you cannot show me one example in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the largest city in New Mexico, then fundamentally, statistically, shouldn't matter to you, because you base your shit on demographics, economy, everything around you. That is looking at statistical data.
That's good. I like that.
So you see what I'm trying to tell you?
Absolutely.
And so I do not give a shit what's going on in New York, because New York is not New Mexico. The only two things that are the same is the new part, right?
Absolutely.
So sticking to this. Okay. So then you see on the body part, you're in there and someone's fucking sucking KFC every day, and they're getting fatter and fatter and fucking eating McDonald's. That's a bad seed. You're growing this shit, and now it's going to affect you in a large way. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't matter. You asked me this multiplying, Nick. You're like, what do you do? You always get shredded. And I'm like, I eat whatever I want, but I know fundamentally what I got to do. Portions, okay, I got to work out more here. There's always that balance, and I understand. So people say, Jack, what do you work out for today? Obviously, I like to be strong. I want to be able to hit you 2 times and knock the fuck out of you. That's one of my goals, right? Mm-hmm. But third fundamental is I work out to eat. So when I'm out there doing that, busting that heavy yard work, I like to eat. I just ate a pastry. I like pastries. I like donuts. I like fucking enchiladas. I like tacos. I like this. I like that. But I want to be able to do enough output so I can eat whatever I want, because I don't want to be on a diet. I'm not stepping on stage anytime soon. And you know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
So for me, that's what I'm trying to talk about, is getting to that balance. But you looking for me on the outside, you think I'm doing some fucking phenomenal secret sauce on the outside.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on here?
But you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But it's because I've built the foundation. So now it's like dividends. It's like having millions in the bank, and then you see me buy that, say a Corvette for $75,000. Oh my God, did you know about a Corvette? But it's really not that much, because it's not quantifiable to what I've actually earned.
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the things that I'm trying to talk about, is about not allowing the outside of that influence to think it's a seed. And so whatever the fuck Kylie Jenner's doing, and I love the Kardashians, you cannot base it on yourself, because number one, you are not in fucking California. You're not in LA. You don't look, it's just a disaster. You're now planting, I call those the hopeless seeds. You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
So not only the negative, but what I'm saying is fundamentally sit back and plant something, 3 core things, one in mind, one in body, one in spirit. This is why in the 1950s and in the 60s and stuff, why the church was so huge in people's lives, because when they made God a center of their thing, or they're going to the religion or whatever, they never felt defeated, because it always felt like, why can't I have God to fall on? And that's exactly what's been my strength, right? For me, is my spiritual belief. That's what gives me that strength, that confidence, everything to it. Everything comes in secondary. And so when you don't understand that portion of yourself, you're always going to be searching for something. It's that heroin addict. Mm-hmm. So you're never planting anything, because in that instance, What if someone gave you the artificial plant? But what if the artificial plant happened to be fucking cocaine?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
So it's fundamentals and systematically. But if we have like you said, the Chinese elm, and I like to look, I pulled all the Chinese elms down on my property, big old suckers, right? I did it. Michael Montoya did. And when I looked at the big old tractors they had to use to pull those things out, right? I think about that all the time, and I say to myself, holy shit. Those are what I call bad trauma bonds, bad historical habits, bad stuff that like cycles that your family started. And you're like, I need to pull that fucking tree out completely. That makes no sense.
Yeah, you
If
can't
my-
just cut the
No,
top.
no.
You got
If
it.
my grandmother was racist and her grandmother was racist and all that, that needs to stop. It's a hard stop. So you got to pull that tree out completely and throw it the fuck out and get it out of your thing because it's not going to serve you.
Mhm.
It might have been okay in the 50s and 60s or 40s, whatever, but it's not okay today.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm talking about. And this is where I play and I tell people I'm a conservative, but I'm not a conservative where I'm so blinded that I can't sit there with my friends and sit down with John, him tell me exactly, and I'll say, oh shit, he's got a point there, right?
Mhm.
You got a point there. People ask me all the time, they say, you know what, Jack, when you vote, who do you vote for? And I said, you know what's funny? I don't vote what's going to do me. I don't give a fuck about the taxes. The taxes are going to affect me either way or not. But this is what I look at. I vote for my people in northern New Mexico. I vote for the people in Albuquerque that do not have the opportunity that I had. I'm voting for the people across this state and everywhere that don't have that opportunity. I'm voting for the children that don't have a hot meal. I'm voting for the elderly that need medication. And I'm telling you right now, fundamentally, those aren't probably the votes that are going to benefit me. But I had a conversation with my friend one night, and I said this. I said, if we wouldn't have had the Pell Grants and we wouldn't have had those in place, me and you would not be sitting here today. So regardless of what we want to say,
If that socialism wasn't in place,
if that's
and
so,
it's socialism, and those are things that benefit society.
absolutely,
Did you
John.
go to a public school?
Yeah.
Did you ride a bus?
Exactly.
Did you use public transportation? All those things are components that people, I mean, ever since the World War II ended and this whole concept of the Red Scare and McCarthyism has happened, where they try to scare people to voting against their own best interests. And you and Michael are probably, the only millionaires that I know, but I know at your heart, you care about people and not just about yourself first.
Yes.
And those are powerful things. And I wish we had more multimillionaires and billionaires that thought that way, that realized that I didn't get here all on my own. My hard work pushed me over the edge. But if I didn't have Pell Grants, like you just said, if I didn't have public education, if I didn't have that school bus to ride on, and I just had to go to the academy, which could your parents have sent you to the academy? No. Okay. So, so how did you get here? And that's what a lot of people that get a little bit of money in their pocket and they start to think, oh, you know what? I want to keep it all. I forget. I don't care how, but your kid plays at the AYBL, which the taxpayers pay for, or they play at the park, or they go, they ride a school bus.
And you know what, John, I think I've used this in many times. I said, and I don't know if you're on this podcast, but I said, when you are blessed with greatness, your responsibility is to do great things for the rest of your tribe. I don't know how many times I've said that, right? And so I think the fundamental for me personally is, you know what, at the end of the day, whatever I got to contribute, if it's helping the children, if it's helping the elderly, I'm all in. And my fundamental is, it's not, the programs are good. What we hate is the abuse of the people that are abusing the programs, and that's just called humanity. But ultimately, when I look at those things, I have to make a decision. And so I tell people the reason that I do things and I vote certain ways and do certain things is not for myself, because I will find my way, because God just said, you know what, you're going to be a soldier, but not the rest of the people can actually go like a soldier. But without the school bus, and I had I had more an advantage than anyone else, because my parents did very decent. But at the end of the day, I rode a school bus. I went to a public school. I like everything that John said, a Pell Grant, certain things I remember when I would fight, or I knew my dad made too much money.
Did you go to a state university?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the taxpayers pay
Exactly.
for that.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
So you know.
So when
But if you stick with the garden metaphor, it's all what seeds do you plant? Okay. So do you just constantly just pull from the fruit, and never give back to the soil?
but what I want to touch is
You
this, John,
Yeah.
is what I don't want people to do. This is I'm glad you said that. Is that's when you get to the crop, but we haven't even got to crops. That's going to be a future one.
Mhm.
But what we don't want is individuals putting bad seeds, saying that all social programs are bad.
Mhm.
And so we have to be able to delineate that and say, no, they're not. So you're taking it, you're hearing it from a fucking multimillionaire that it's not bad, because we need it. We need those programs. We need that stuff.
So if you had children, do you think would you send your kids to public school?
No, my kids wouldn't go to public school, John. I think for me personally, like where I'm at, let me tell you how I would do it, okay?
Mhm.
If I had kids, to be honest with you, I would hire private teachers like yourself. They wouldn't even go to a program. I would either bought Silver Learning myself, and I would have created it where I could help other kids, like maybe from my neighborhood. I can't help everybody, but I would have brought the best teachers of every subject. I would have created my own private school, like Silver Learning, and then I would have created where it's some profit for tutoring, and I'd have figured out how to bring in a grant or done something. Or I got a ways of doing it, right?
Mm.
But I would not put my kids to the public school program. I wouldn't say that it's bad and shut down on it. But I think for me, like as a kid, like I got bullied so much because I was a very smart fucking kid. And I went to Catholic school and it was good, but I went to the public school. I had a very hard time. I learned how to become a gladiator, but I don't think anyone should have to go through that stuff. I'm not saying everyone's going through that, but in my time period, it's pretty rough. But like I said, no, I'm not going to say that the schools are bad out there, but no, I would have to say that.
Okay, and now because you have the means to be able to do that.
Yes.
And most people don't have the means to be able to hire their own personal tutors and, do those things. Now, back when I was married, we could have easily sent our kids to private schools, but I was a public school teacher and I saw the value of public education because of the socialization aspect. If you look at the Fortune 500 companies, half of those CEOs come from public education, from
Absolutely.
public schools. So it's not just Ivy League people that have private tutors, private instructors. That's the recipe for success, because you're a byproduct right there of that type of instrument.
But the only advantage you had, John, is that you were actually in the school.
Mhm.
So you're a temperature to see if things are going to get fucked up.
Mhm.
And that's why your kids are doing so well.
Yeah.
So do you see, but if you don't have the fundamental that it's like me going into technology, right?
Yeah.
Or Michael looking at dirt work.
Mhm.
We could all say, okay, we got a bunch of free dirt workers here. He's going to be able to say, you're fucking up. That's not what you do. He can fix it. You have that advantage. But John, like, let me put it to you this way. I know you and you're in the school system and I have kids. I'm like, well, where's John at? You're going to be my temperature gauge.
Mhm.
So do you see what I'm trying to tell you?
Oh no, and that's what I've always tried to tell people, is that in every school there are shitty teachers and there are also amazing teachers. Now it's your job as a parent to make sure that your kid's in those amazing classes.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now,
Yeah.
a shout out to fucking Mr. Maximo Gurule, Miss Garduño, Miss Vigil. I mean, teachers for me that were just freaking phenomenal, right? I had a lot of phenomenal teachers in Peñasco. And so I can tell you that there's a lot that I probably left out here, but I'm going to tell you right now, Mr. Gurule, like what he was able to do for me, Maximo, even the elders, I never had really the Chavez's. I mean, holy shit, I never really could say that I had bad teacher. I had a great example of teachers, the Garcias, like, saying, I remember Andrew Garcia telling me, if you always shoot for a C and you miss, you're going to hit a D. But if you're always shooting for an A+ and you miss, you might hit a B. So John, so my public school education was freaking phenomenal. I'll give you an example. Just brought me back and give me a nostalgia, right? And I forgot, I had my shop teacher, right? Carlos, and I forget the man's name, Mr. Abeta, and then Mike. He taught me how to draft, taught me how to weld. So absolutely, I can honestly tell you, I think I learned more in my public school education than I did in college. So yes, you can do that. So I think maybe if I change my answer now, it'd be a little skewed. I would say yes, I would put through a public education. But if my kids are failing at something, I would not be waiting for the public education to move it. I would bring in the tutors.
Oh, absolutely.
So
and that's exactly what I've done, is I've used that baseline to say, okay, this is going to provide the source. So like a perfect example is, we redshirted all three of my sons. To what it meant is that they did 2 years of kindergarten. Okay. So The whole reason being so that they could be as old as they possibly could be, so that they'd either be a 19 or an 18. And I'm actually writing a book about it. But we've taken that system, used all its best qualities. Because I want my kids to be around LGBTQ plus community. I want them to be around Muslims. I want them to be around poor kids. I want them to be around rich kids. I want them to be around everybody because I want them to develop empathy.
Yes.
I want them to be able to have compassion for other people. And I think that's what public education does for children, is it teaches them those things.
I'm gonna tell you something, John. It started at home. You can't, yo, it's you, buddy. You started the 80%, the 20% just polished it. My empathy that I have for people, and what is this from my mother? My mother was such a phenomenal woman. What she taught me, being a foster parent and all that, my mom was hard as nails, but she taught me to be empathetic and, kind of just love everybody, no matter what it was. And that's one of the most beautiful things. I learned that from my mom. I can't say I learned that in school. I learned that from my mom. It starts there at that home process. But one of the things that I think, for me personally, this is my opinion, what I love is I see what Michael's done, sending his kids like to St. Thomas Aquinas and then
St. Pius.
St. Pius. What I think is missing for me in the schools, and because I'm very strong, is the Christian part of it. So I think now if I'm now going to change my question again, my thought process, I think I would give my kids but I would put my kids in the beginning like a St. Thomas Aquinas to get that grounding. Because for me, one things I would want my kids to have overall, even the knowledge, is to have God in the center of their life. Yeah. And that's what matters to me. So I think, when you think about it, that's why you want to get smart people around you, so you can have these conversations. Say, well, what would I do? That's creating a fucking plan. So that chess thing you just said, yeah. I actually ran all the scenarios now in my head, and now I know exactly what I would do, right?
And I'm the farther left person of that because I don't place those types of values in it. I've never ever said, oh, my kids need to have this type of religious education to be able to flourish. But Mike, I know I'm just all three of my sons, they're very empathetic. They care about people. Now, are they spiritually driven? No, but they are family driven. Family is at the core of everything that they do, so their love for their mother, their love for their father, their grandparents, so that's just it. And it goes back to the garden metaphor. What seeds do we plant? Seeds do we water? What weeds do we try to keep away? Because there's tons of weed, and that's what literally the gardens that my sons experience. They have to balance those things.
Yeah.
They play I hear these people that bash video games or bash social media, all those things, and I'm like, my kids do all those things. Plus, they get straight A's. Plus, they play multiple sports. Mm-hmm. Plus they volunteer, plus they care about other people. So that balance in your garden, there can be negative things and bad things, but do you let them grow too much?
No, you pluck them. That's what we talk about.
Yeah.
Don't let them get a root system.
Oh no, yeah.
They're gonna be there. You pluck those fuckers out, you're there. But I think the fundamentals, and you gotta know, like, ultimately, it's like me sitting here, right? And I like, we're talking about this, John. I love this. I never go and I'm gonna impose my thought process on anybody, right? I mean, you're talking to a guy who studied with the monks, right? And I tell people what I learned studying with monks and that kind of patience and learning actually deepened my Christian belief even stronger, right? Because Jesus was a fierce monk. And so when I look at it that way, I've learned that. But for me personally, I truly believe you have to have that really core in your heart to take you to the next level, because it's just my belief system. But then I stick to what I know, right? Yeah. And I'm going to tell you exactly, I tell you the gospel according to the general. Mm-hmm. And this is why and this is the truth according to me, right? But at the end of the day, you need to do your research and figure out what it is. But I would tell you that for me personally, number one, very divine power behind me. I always think my guardian angels are with me. God, I said, God has favored me. I do all the right things. And I say, you know what? But I'm not doing this for myself. Just like what John said, I'm doing this to better myself with this, but ultimately I want to be very giving and I want to help people and I don't want to see people hurt. One of the greatest quotes I heard, and I'm going to chop this fucker up for my ability, is saying, when you're given something, when you have an opportunity to help someone, it's actually God's act on his behalf. Like when I drive and when I see a homeless person, I'm not there thinking, well, are you on drugs or what the fuck did you do? And I don't give a shit. If I can give you $5, $10, I remember I used to, since all this was ingrained in me, I used to go up on Gibson where I knew that all the veterans that were coming off the VA, they used to be out there in wheelchairs, a lot of them missing their legs and stuff. And I drove my black Escalade and I would hand 20s to everybody was out there. And so, you know what? God bless you guys. Have a Sunday dinner on me. And that was my thing to do. And I wasn't looking for any type of pat on my back. And I remember someone telling me, aren't you afraid of going up there and getting robbed? And I was like, no, why the fuck am I afraid of robbed? But you see that negative seat? Because I'm doing something positive. What the fuck do you think I give a fuck? I'm like, dude, I'm not give a fuck. I'm 6 foot tall, 230 pounds. I fucking punch over 400 pounds of PSI. I don't think I'm too worried, dude.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm not going to allow those negative seeds to stop what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right? Los Ojos, we deliver all over the place. I get down. I'm still on some people's mantles. And one of the greatest things, I think I shared this story with you, John, is we went to deliver a basket one year, and there was this lady, and the little boy comes out, and I was about to fucking cry, and I had to hold myself, and he says, sir, you must be Superman. Because of you guys, we're going to, he said, no, because of you is what he told me, and it wasn't because of me. He says, we're going to have Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner, or Christmas, or Thanksgiving, I can't remember. And I was like, holy shit. And the lady comes in, and I walk in, and there was a picture of JFK and Jesus on her mantle. And she says, can we take a picture? And I said, yeah. So we all got there. I'm wearing a black leather jacket. The little boy is hugging my leg. I'm there, and I take a picture. The very next year, they made it on the list. And I ended up getting the same house. It's weird, right? So I roll up, and I walk in. We're taking toys. Same little boy. He's all excited. And I walk in, and on the mantle, there's JFK, there's Jesus, and the general.
Wow.
And fucking one of the most humbling things in my life. And that's that I was that. She's like, men like you are the men that do great things. And I was like, man, she threw me up there with JFK.
I mean, imagine the seed you planted for that little boy.
Exactly. But you know what I was telling him the whole time? I said, you're going to do greatness. This isn't by this. And so I don't have that. You know, I was telling people I'm like the fucking dog whisperer for crazies, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't really have any judgment. I really don't. You notice the thing about me, I have zero judgment. I don't care what your walk of life is. I don't care what you've done. I don't care this. I don't care that. I'm a very unjudgmental person. And so
Judgment's reflection. And that's a big thing though, you know, is I feel like judgment is really a reflection of who you are, you know, and you walk with pure intention and you walk with integrity, which is one of the things really left out. Because look at you doing stuff without, like a lot of people want to record themselves feeding homeless people or record, like it's just all for the wrong intention.
Yeah.
Maybe in the beginning they just wanted to do something nice, but the point of them trying to record it is like the intention's very clear, you know. It's like a lot of the most biggest things we could do is when no one's looking, you know.
And I think, Nikki, that one's like a real biased one because, you know, a lot of people want to be like, want to show the example. And even with that statement there, we don't know what their intention and their heart is, so we don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I prefer. I prefer a bunch of mofos broadcasting on social media doing good things for homeless people than not doing shit at all. So give no matter what it is, right? Whether you're broadcasting or doing it in silence, just give. And I think if we just took the time and looked at our neighbors and said, hey, you know what do you need? Can I help you? I mean, I'm the guy who goes up and down my road in Corrales, and there's a lot of ladies, and we have a lot of good relationship. I'll pull the fucking big weeds off the bosque because I don't want to look at them, and I'm sure they don't want to look at them, but they're not going to go out there, and they're not strong enough. But if we all did a kind thing every single day of our lives, and we planted that kind seed in someone's mind, or it's an opportunity to do something kind, our world would be a lot better. And this is what so much hate. Look, I'm going to tell you something. Look, one thing I learned was this, and people said, what's the lesson you saw from the presidential election? And I said, this is this. No matter how powerful you are, you can never be mean. And mean will always just lose. I've seen some fucking good-looking women, good-looking men, rich people and all that. And the one thing it doesn't give you is an actual badge to be an asshole or a bitch. And I think that sometimes people can they're so brilliant that they're so condescending. And I'm like, wow, you have this gift of brilliance, but you're putting down the guy who obviously can do the mathematical equation or figure it out. Why not give a helping hand? And so I think for me personally, ultimately, if you're given a gift in any kind of subset, just give the person the hand. When I was in college, I would tutor and help anybody. I didn't give a crap. Because I never wanted to feel like when I was a little boy and someone was making me feel bad, I just didn't want to have anyone feel that feeling, right? Just be a helping hand. Now, I'm not going to go with the fucking top where you're taking advantage of me. Like, I'm not, don't get that twisted, right? And that's what people don't get that twisted. There's a difference between giving a helping hand and someone taking your fucking arm, right? No one's paying your bills. No one's doing that shit. No one's like, hey, give me a Vimo because I'm fucking hurting. No, that's not going to work with me. You know, it's that whole, I'm going to teach you how to fish. I'm not going to give you a fish unless you're elderly or a child. I'm going to step in. Now, that's when I don't really going to ask questions, right? I'm going to just do it. But that's what I'm talking about, is those are the things that we cannot allow to get in our minds. And I think really iterating today is don't let those fucking seeds of hate enter your mind. Don't let those fucking seeds of despair
or envy.
All the stuff that I say. Read my, Nikki, pop up my 10 Commandments there. No, right there. Right there's the suckers right there.
I have it saved on my phone.
Okay, look at the one right there. It says, I think number says, never let envy or jealousy enter your heart.
I'm pulling down. Hold on.
I should have my own 10 memorized, but I don't.
Well, they're all really good, so I'm trying to find it.
I think there's one that says, the moment you let envy enter your heart, it's like poison.
Here's Breezy Breeze. She says, you
There it is,
don't have to kiss, but you don't have to be an ass.
So it's number 9. Don't gossip. The tongue pierces deeper than the sword. Don't let envy or jealousy enter your heart. It's like poison. It'll kill you sooner than you think.
Yeah. You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Absolutely.
It starts to just kill you from the inside out. Is that venom, right? And that's what's crazy about seeds is ultimately is that seed, those roots going to drain the water from your garden. And even if the water flows in, it's just going to take that water so the other plants die. That's what I'm talking about. Are we going to sit there and fucking read 1,000 books and all these self-helps and all these fucking bullshitters and not focus on doing one thing? Well, we know what the problem is. When we get up in the morning and we look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm a lazy fucker because I don't want to get up at fucking 5:30 in the morning. You know what's one thing my mother taught me, and I God love that woman. She taught me to look in the mirror and make no fucking excuses of my failures. That's the greatest
powerful
gift she gave me. When I look in the mirror, I look and I say, this is my failures. And this is why I'm failing. Because you know what? I'm not working hard enough at this. Because my fucking CRM's fucked up. Because my RMN's fucked up. I'm not looking at what my competition got. No, you know why? Because this is why I'm not getting this shit done. But do you think I'm reading out there or researching or figuring out why I'm fucked up? No, I already know. I don't need someone to tell me. And this is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes the answer is really in front of you. So instead of trying to open a book or listen, just sit down silently and look in that mirror and ask yourself, have I done everything 100%? Someone asked me the other day, young man, and he says, Jack, do you feel like you've not accomplished this, that, the other by day? And I had to think about this. If you get anything from this podcast, I'm going to give you a set of words that is going to mentally heal you and keep you stronger than you can ever believe. And I want you to pay attention. When you do something and you fail at it, if you can ask yourself the question that I give it my 100% and I left nothing on the field and I lost, then you won. But if you fail and you can ask yourself and you didn't give it your all, then you didn't deserve to win. So you're not a failure. That means you didn't put your all.
So good.
That exactly is how I look at wealth. That's exactly how I look at any challenge you throw in your life. If you threw everything at it but the fucking kitchen sink and you failed, well, then guess what? You didn't leave anything on that field that you feel remorseful about. So that is exactly what I'm trying to tell you. You take that, you're unstoppable.
Absolutely.
You're unstoppable.
That is like so powerful, you know. Being able to be completely honest with yourself will take you places.
Yeah, which most people can't, right? They just can't.
I don't know. It's like we're afraid of, and the deep rooted thing. Like to sum up everything that I took in from today is it's so important to deep remove those weeds and those childhood traumas and all this stuff that no longer serve us. But no, I'm going to use the example at my old landlord's house. She would just cut the elm trees, and I would tell her, like, your pipes are getting messed up because the roots are in there. And she's like, well, I chopped the tree down. I'm like, no, you really got to remove the entire tree from its core. And I hope that everybody listening really takes that reflection and start off with one. Remove the deep-rooted paradigm shifts.
Well, think about your landlord.
Mm-hmm.
How old was she?
She's older.
Okay, she says, I was cutting the trees. So they're really tiny little trees at that time where she's able to cut them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the root is still growing.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine systematically if you're allowing a root to grow, but one day that tree's going to be so big you just can't cut it with a set of cutters.
Yeah. It's the size of a cottonwood tree.
It needs a fucking chainsaw, right? That's what I'm talking about. Is the root system that tree is building. Just because you're cutting it off and it's growing doesn't mean you're really taking its life out. It's like there's a story of this bamboo where the bamboo grows the root and you can't see it grow for anything. And then one day it just grows in footages, right? Because that root system is there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Good habits, or what we're doing is you got to do this. Look, I heard one of the greatest things. You guys see the People Choice Awards?
Yes.
Okay, did you see Tyler Perry?
I did not see that part.
He had the fucking greatest example of his life.
I love that
So
guy.
I guess in an area, he said that his water bill was off the fucking chain. So he hired someone to drill a well. And they started drilling a well, and then they couldn't get to it. And so they're putting all these different flags, and they're drawing all these different wells, and they get to it, and he's like, can't do it. So then he says, no, we're not getting anywhere. He sends them off, and he literally gets another water bill, and he calls him back, and he says, you know what? I want you to drill in this one spot, and I don't give a shit how far you drill. You're going to get water. So he starts drilling. They start drilling. They drill 500 feet, nothing. They drill 600 feet, nothing. They drill 700 feet, nothing. He says they drill 1,000 feet. And he's all, this is what it's costing. He's like, the fuck with that. So he's going to call. He doesn't catch him. He calls him and says, I'm going to tell him, stop drilling. He's already 1,000 feet. This is what blows my mind. So he leaves the message. The guy gets up early, and he starts to fucking drill before he stops him. He drills 4 more inches and hits a fucking huge well vessel.
Wow.
But imagine he would have stopped 4 inches shy. Right? How far of us have we stopped 4 inches shy?
Yeah.
That is what's fucking huge. Are you trying to find that, John?
I already have it.
Watch. Okay, watch. John, play this. I want you. He says this last piece is just powerful.
Let me find it because he does like about a 4-minute speech. So.
Part of my dream. There are people who are tied into your dream and your destiny, and you are worthy of getting to your goal. Keep digging. Don't stop. Or what we were after. But if you just keep digging wells in our lives, we're digging, just wasting money. I'm not going to do it. As soon as he gets in the morning, I'm going to tell him to stop digging. That morning, he comes out, he starts the machine. I'm on my way down to him. The machine starts. He was 4 inches away from the water that I needed. Why am I telling you all this? Why am I talking about digging for water? In this world, we're all digging wells. In our lives, we're digging wells. We're digging wells in relationships where we put all this time and effort and energy, and sometimes it doesn't give us what we need. We put all our time and effort and energy in our dreams and our business, and it doesn't give us what we need or what we were after. But if you just keep digging, my God, if you could just hear me right now, just keep digging. You may be 4 inches away from every gift and every blessing that you've ever wanted in your life. Had I given up when I was homeless, when I was sleeping in my car, when I was hungry, had I given up, these people that you see on this screen right now would not be a part of my dream. There are people who are tied into your dream and your destiny, and you are worthy of getting to your goal. Keep digging. Don't stop. And let me tell you something, like I tell everyone here, listen to me. When you get there, when you get to that water and you see it's coming and you know you have what you need, this is what I want you to always remember. Make sure that everybody you run into meets you at your worth. So I want to say thank you to all of the people who voted for me to have this. I'm really inspired.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
How
Being
powerful is
at
that?
Your worth. That is so
How
powerful.
powerful is that?
That's a good one.
So you see what I'm trying to tell you? So that metaphoric thing he said, it goes back to my childhood with the shovel, the pick, the digging. Because ultimately, I'm not afraid of the hard work. And I'm going to fucking tell you something. I know that God wants me to dig a well that's so large so that I can help my people. And so I'm so reinvigorated that I'm just gonna dig. I'm gonna dig so deep in there, no matter what anyone tells me, that I'm just gonna fucking dig. And that's what I'm telling you, because you know why? I don't allow too many weeds in my garden, but the small ones that I pulled, I am tired of hearing the bullshit from the news, from social media, from people, from this, from that. So let me tell you what the personal decision I made. I'm going to let people's gibberish, bad news, what's going on in the world, the fucking phantoms, the goo-boo goblins, the potential fucking lions, the bad this, roll off me like raindrops on a rain jacket. And those drops are not going to even touch my body because I'm just going to continue fucking digging and digging and digging till I get to the next level. Period. So I hope all you guys listening out there that you don't allow the bad seeds, all this, to hold you and cloud you from doing your greatest things in your lives. But focus on one thing and master that deal in your mind, body, and spirit. And I can promise you, just like Tyler Perry said, I'm going to get to his level, is, you know what? You will be at the greatest well. We're all digging, but don't be, just because some motherfucker tells you, oh, dig with this thing, and you stop digging, you're not even going to get to the 4 inches. You stick to what you know and stick to that. The general sticks to fucking technology. That's what I stick to. So, guys, we're out. Great having you guys. Don't let this fucking pandemic shit scare you. Be smart. Do the things that you got to do. You know what you got to do, the wisdom. And at the end of the day, you should be good. So we're out. Guys, great podcast. The truth.
Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution. With incredible products that will fit your needs both big and small, and unmatched service, it's your vision delivered. Learn how we can help your business roar into action today. Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution.